On a winter night in 2004, a young woman crashed her car on a rural road in New Hampshire. A neighbor saw her standing by the wrecked vehicle. A passing driver stopped to offer help, and she asked him not to call the police. He went to call anyway, and in the few minutes it took for help to arrive, she vanished. By the time the police reached the scene, Maura Murray was gone. No footprints led away into the snow. No trace of her was ever found. And more than 20 years later, her disappearance remains one of the most debated unsolved mysteries in America. This is her story. Maura Murray was a 21-year-old nursing student at the University of Massachusetts. She was intelligent, athletic, a former track runner. By all accounts, she had a bright future ahead of her. But in the days before she vanished, something seems to have been deeply wrong. There were signs of personal stress and turmoil in her life, the details of which have been picked over endlessly ever since. Whatever was happening on the evening of the 9th of February 2004, Maura did something abrupt and unexplained. She emailed her professors in her workplace, saying she would be away for a few days due to a family matter, though no such family emergency appears to have occurred. She withdrew a sum of money. She packed some belongings into her car, and then, without telling her family or friends where she was going, she drove north, away from her university into the mountains of New Hampshire. What her destination was, no one knows. She left no clear indication of where she was headed or why. Hours later, on a dark and cold rural road in the town of Haverhill, New Hampshire, her car left the road and crashed into a snowbank. It was around 7 in the evening. A local resident, hearing or seeing the crash, looked out and saw Maura standing by her car. He asked if she was all right. By some accounts, she appeared shaken but unhurt and indicated that she had called for roadside assistance, though records suggest no such call was made. A school bus driver passing by also stopped. He too offered help. Maura, according to his account, asked him not to call the police, saying she had already called for help. Concerned, he drove a short distance to his home and called the authorities anyway. The police response was quick, just a matter of minutes. But when the officer arrived at the crash site, Maura was gone. The car was there, damaged and locked, with some of her belongings inside. But Maura herself had vanished into the freezing dark. And here the mystery becomes truly strange. It was a cold winter night with snow on the ground. And yet searchers found no clear trail leading away from the car. No footprints heading off into the woods or down the road. It was as if she had simply evaporated from the roadside in the brief window between the witnesses leaving and the police arriving. The search that followed was extensive. Police and volunteers combed the area, the woods, the river nearby. Dogs were brought in. The cold, rural terrain was searched again and again over the following days, weeks, and years. They found nothing. Not Maura, not her clothing, not any definitive sign of where she had gone. In the absence of answers, theories have multiplied, and the case has become one of the most intensely discussed disappearances in the country, the subject of books, documentaries, podcasts, and a vast community of amateur investigators. One theory holds that Maura, distraught and fleeing some crisis in her life, walked off into the freezing woods intending to disappear and died of exposure somewhere that her body was never found. The cold that night was severe, and a person on foot, underdressed, could have succumbed quickly. But the failure of extensive searches to find any remains, even after all these years, has left this theory unproven. Another theory holds that someone picked her up, whether a stranger who happened by or someone she knew, and that she met with foul play afterward. A lone young woman on a dark rural road at night after a crash would have been terribly vulnerable. If someone stopped and offered her a ride in those few unobserved minutes, she could have been driven away before the police ever arrived, which might explain the lack of footprints. There have been suspects floated, persons of interest examined, locations searched based on tips. There have been countless leads chased down over the decades, but none has ever produced a definitive answer. The case remains open and unsolved. Part of what has made the Maura Murray case so enduring is the cloud of unanswered questions surrounding her final days. Why did she lie about a family emergency? Where was she going? Alone, into the mountains, in winter. Why did she ask the witnesses not to call the police? What was she running from or toward? Each of these questions has spawned its own theories, and none has a clear answer. The mystery is not just where she went, but why she set out at all. The case has also been shaped, for better and worse, by the internet age. Maura Murray became one of the first great disappearances of the online era, drawing an enormous community of amateur sleuths who pored over every detail, every map, every timeline. This attention kept the case alive and surfaced new questions, but it also generated a storm of speculation, accusation, and theory that at times overwhelmed the facts. People with no connection to the case became obsessed with it. Some pursued leads, others spun elaborate scenarios, and the line between genuine investigation and entertainment blurred. For Maura's family, this meant watching their private tragedy dissected endlessly by strangers. There were also the small, nagging details that never quite fit. Traces of alcohol were reportedly found in the car, raising questions about her state that night. The route she took, the things she said to the witnesses, the lie about a family emergency, none of it formed a coherent picture. Every theory had to explain away some inconvenient fact, and none could explain them all. It is this incompleteness, this sense of a story with crucial pages torn out, that has kept the case so stubbornly unresolved. For her family, the disappearance has been an endless ordeal. They have searched, advocated, and pleaded for information for over 2 decades, refusing to let her case fade, even as they have lived with the agony of not knowing. Her father, in particular, devoted himself to the search for answers. More than 20 years have now passed. The rural road where she crashed is still there, still quiet, still lined by dark New England woods. People drive past it, most of them unaware of what happened there, on a freezing night, in the space of a few unwatched minutes. Where did Maura Murray go in those minutes between the crash and the arrival of the police? Did she walk into the woods in the cold or into a stranger's car? And what was she fleeing on that last desperate drive into the dark? After more than 20 years, the snowbank keeps its secret. We may never know.